Hello, everybody. My name is Ryunn Eldred, and I'm here with Razgriz, the BossFoss, and welcome to the R&R podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening on any of your podcast listening devices and or watching the vidcast version on the Ryunn Eldred YouTube channel. Links will be down below to be linked over to that. To start us off here, how are you doing, Roz? It's been about 2 weeks since we did the tier list ranking to what we thought was the best horror games. So how have you been since that last episode?
Life's been interesting. I got sick. I eventually got better. I went to a wedding. And I've just been working, but it's good. What about you, Mister? Everything is going crazy in your life.
Well, since the last episode, I went to a wedding, got sick. Um, pretty much the same as you, but just a little bit more exaggerated. My friends Cody and Haley got married over this weekend, and it was a very beautiful wedding. David is disappearing on the vidcast version, so I'm slightly scared. But to fill in the gap until he gets back, ladies and gentlemen, I have an update for y'all.
I am here.
Okay, you
I'm
just
just, I'm just
disappeared.
not. Yeah, I just took my view off.
So, I have an update for everybody. So, do you remember what the top 3 horror games were for the R&R podcast that me and you did? It was PT, Alien Isolation, and I think FNAF.
Yes,
And
yes.
then with
That
the
order. Or
then when me and Chris did it for the drinking corner, we went PT, um, Outlast, and something else. I can't remember. Well, Rolling Stone sent me a notification today. As of October 27th, 2024, Rolling Stone magazine has released an article for their RS Gaming article section of the top 10 scariest video games of all time. And I thought it would be really funny to touch base on it because it is a horror gaming list that is, as of right now, of recording, came out yesterday. So, at number 10, and let me know if you've heard of any of these games as well. We get a game called I'm Scared, which only released on the PC in 2012.
yeah, I do remember
I think
hearing
Mark,
something about it.
I think I saw Mark play it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, yeah, I remember hearing about it at least. You can hear me right now, right?
I do, yes. Give me
Okay.
1 second. I need to mute myself real quick.
So, while Rune is yelling something at probably a cat, um, we do want to say that we greatly appreciate each and every one of you guys and all the support that you guys give. Uh, this may or may not be cut from the video, depending on what Rune wants to say. um, yes. If if this does
All right,
make it
sorry
for
about
those of
that.
you listening,
I had a home intruder there for a second.
cat.
Nah, it was all good. Just
Yeah.
we've recently cooked food and I'm kind of boxed in at my desk and the cat Uso, don't you fucking do it.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm looking at you. You got fucking food right there, cat. Literally right there. A plate full of food.
have you looked at the list?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at number 9, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which I could see number 4 out of all the Five Nights at Freddy's games on in their series. Number 4 being the one that made the list cuz number 4 in my opinion was one of the more scarier ones.
Yeah, I can see that. I'll cover my camera so you can see me nodding.
So, shockingly, at number 8, we have PT, which for me personally, saying PT ranking so low on the list for Rolling Stones, when for both R&R and the Drinking Corner, it ranked high, like top 3 in both of ours, was a little shocking in my opinion. But I get it because it was a demo. But I mean, PT has been featured in uh Metal Gear Solid Ground, or not Ground Zero, but Phantom Pain, because you get the monologue the fetus says in the sync in PT. They have that as one of the collectible audio tapes for Metal Gear. It was in Death Stranding director's cut, as Lisa like is one of the nightmares Sam could have. So I just figured it would have went higher. At number 7, we have Phasmophobia. David, how did Phasmophobia not make either list for us? Given the fact that we play it, you muted again.
Because I'm eating. So, for those of you who don't know, and there should be everybody, stalkers, I just got home, so I am in the middle of eating dinner while we are doing this.
We're both in the
Um,
middle of eating dinner.
well, our list, we had came up with that list based off of the list that you had found.
That's true.
And then
That's right.
we had pulled in one video game that was not mentioned. So, Phasmophobia is a fantastic game. It does have its issues from time to time, but it is a great game. Um, and I'm hoping that it'll be more of a staple of our channel soon.
Especially with it jumping to console, there's going to be videos on both channels. At number 6, which is a horror game I completely forgot about, is Clock Tower, which came out for the Super Famicom and the PlayStation and Windows. At number 5, we have Rule of Rose, which I've never heard of.
I do remember hearing about Rule of Rose. Uh, Granted, in 2006 I was 10, so I was not playing it. But it looks like it was potentially banned.
Wait a second, is Rule of Rose
Yep,
the game I'm
it's
thinking
banned.
of?
The UK ended up banning Rule of Rose after enough publications associated with it with obscene or associated it with obscene and underage torture.
This is the game I'm seeing all over fucking TikTok right now, with streamers playing. Okay. Okay. At number 4, we have Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which I do think Resident Evil 7 deserves to be on this list since it brought Resident Evil back into like the limelight. So, top 3, we have at 3 Outlast. I think it deserves to be in the top 3. At number 2, we have Fatal Frame 3 The Tormented, which I'm not familiar with that specific entry into the series, but I I do. Goddamn rice. Sorry. Rice is trying to kill me on recording here. I am
If I'm
familiar
not
with Fatal
mistaken,
Frame.
isn't that the game that as you're playing, like weird things are happening and like you
You
can
have to
get
take
haunted?
picture. You have to take the pictures of the ghosts to like fight them, pretty much. And at number 1, we have Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which I gotta say, yes, I get why it's at number one because for a lot of YouTubers and horror game streamers, was Amnesia and Five Nights at Freddy's were the two games that really brought people out in YouTube through the gaming category. Give us a minute while we wait for David to get back. All right, welcome back.
I disagree, though. I do not think Amnesia: The Dark Descent should be number one.
I don't think it deserves to be per se number one. I get why Rolling Stones put it at number one, being the fact that with YouTube culture, Amnesia was one of those original horror games that brought out a lot of big YouTubers like PewDiePie, Markiplier in the horror gaming genre. Those were staple. It was a staple game for YouTubers, so I get it. But I definitely don't think it's like the number one.
There'll probably be somebody in the comments that says, "Well, how would they know? They never played it."
David's played Amnesia the Bunker, haven't you?
Mm-mm.
No?
No, I think I downloaded it at one point, but no, I never played it.
And to that we say, all because you haven't seen it on a channel doesn't mean we haven't played it in our spare time. Right, David? Right?
Absolutely.
Just like in
And
all of our videos, we always accomplish the goal in the first try.
indeed.
Because we are perfect. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to go through a top 10 quick list since I feel Rolling Stone is a very reputable magazine.
Yeah, I could argue that.
I feel out of most magazines, if I read an article out of Rolling Stones, I would agree more with it than if I read it out of like Vogue, Cosmo, especially
Mhm.
for a ranking in a gaming list. Now, RIP Game Informer, but if Game Informer were to make a top 10 list, I would have rated it over.
Game Informer still exists.
They're done. They put out their last magazine.
Physically, yeah. Mm. Well, guess not. Oh well.
Oh, did you just look it up to see that they said goodbye?
Yep. When did they make that announcement?
I think at the beginning of this month or ending of last month. It was relatively soon. It was
August
relatively.
August 2nd, it hit The Verge. Never didn't hear about it.
I remember seeing a thing about it because the last Game Informer cover is a Veilguard, Dragon Age Veilguard, which is really unfortunate because for the last year I haven't been receiving my physical copies. So I have every issue of Game Informer except for this last year from 2012, 2012 to last year.
Hmm.
It sits in one of my bookshelves, a big old, it just takes a whole entire shelf in of itself full of magazines. It was one of those random weird little oddities I like to collect. I'll miss it. It's weird, especially in a day where everything's kind of digitalized. I would
Right.
never think I would miss actually having a physical magazine to look at, but like missing the articles, game reviews, like fan art that was submitted in through it. It was a good company. I'm curious to see why they closed the doors because I never actually looked into it. I
Probably
just
just
know they
money.
said goodbye.
GameStop probably just wasn't getting money.
But with that being said, we touched base on the last episode with the top 10 horror game ranking. We don't really have anything necessarily in the chamber for today's episode. This is the Halloween episode because this episode will come out on Halloween
Hmm.
Day or the day before Halloween. October 30th is when this is set to release, but you know, give or take, it's still the Halloween special.
Sure.
So, let's since we took a week off of podcast because originally for the drinking corner, we were all supposed to create a anthology horror story that we're all
Right.
gonna tell and everything, but I definitely don't think that's gonna happen now. Um, let's just kind of small take a step back to what we were supposed to do last week before they had the idea, and let's talk some horror movies. I
Horror
know,
movies. Okay.
I know you're not a big movie watcher or movie goer, but
No.
I assume through the mill you've seen some things or maybe have your own opinion on horror movies. So I'm kind of curious on what you would say is either A, the scariest movie you've ever seen, and B, what you think top three horror movies would be, even if you haven't seen them, like just the influence and all.
Hmm. Okay. So what do you want me to start with?
Let's start with a horror movie you've seen that actually legitimately scared you.
So this one's gonna sound stupid, as most of them do, right? Um, but this is the only movie that I have ever walked out of the theater on.
Hmm.
And like I said, it's gonna sound stupid, so bear with me. But what ended up happening, I was there with my ex girlfriend at the time, and anytime that me and her were talking, we would always talk through Skype or some Skype. We'd phone call, we video chat, that kind of stuff. And she wanted to see the movie. Oh God, what was the name of the movie? What was it called? Oh man, it was like a found footage one, but of like from this girl's screen. Do you remember?
Was
Do you
it
know what I'm talking about?
from a girl's screen, like it was like a Zoom call, or
Yeah, like it was a Zoom call.
was it one where they kept like committing suicide, like the camera would glitch out and oh nice PT hallway. Was it not unfriended, but it's
No,
the
no,
one.
unfriended, unfriended.
Was it unfriended?
I think so. Yeah, I'm googling it right now. Sorry, I was in the middle of
Is
getting
it
this
well
picture.
no, the un yeah, I think no. Because I think unfriended is the one where it
Unfriended.
has the girl and it's like Facebook and she gets like cursed through Facebook. The one you're thinking of is the maybe the Zoom call where it's like through the Zoom call you find out that the last girl before she dies, she made like a YouTube video of this girl that
That's
like died.
unfriended. That's unfriended. Yeah,
No, I could have swore
I look.
unfriended.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and it's unfriended. Unfriended is the movie I ended up seeing
Huh.
where they're on the call, and then the dead friend ends up joining the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfriended.
Okay. Then what movie am I thinking of?
Which also, fun fact, which I didn't know this at the time, one of the people that I enjoy watching on um Dropout, he was in the movie.
Oi! The Dropout podcast or
No, it's not a podcast. Like he's on Dropout, like he's on the D&D show. He's on
give me
Make
give
Some
me
Noise.
give me 1 second.
So as he proceeds to yell at the cat, unfortunately, this is all being cut, which is fine.
I'm about to throw you in the room with Matt.
I don't
Sorry,
think
the
Matt would appreciate that.
Sorry, I just happened to look up and he's sitting there, and I have a pot of tea still on the stove because I made a big pot of tea, and he's sitting there pushing down on the handle, and I'm watching the pot like lift up like he's trying to knock it off the stove, and there's still tea in it.
Mm-hmm.
God, little rambunctious little shit. But continue. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. The
No, it's fine.
dropout, like the D and everything. Which one is it?
This guy right here.
Ah, I remember this movie though, because I like this movie, and I didn't realize they made a sequel.
Of course they did.
Because yes, they always have to make a sequel.
But yeah, this was the video, and yeah. And anyway, so even though neither of us had um a Mac, it was hitting too close to home, and I didn't watch movies growing up like a ton, and I absolutely hated watching horror movies. So this ended up being one that just got a little too real, and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I have since seen the ending of the movie.
It's a good
Um,
movie.
it's okay. It's not a great movie. Um, Blair Witch, the original Blair Witch, is also great. I did see the sequel, the new one, which I it was okay as well. Like it wasn't the best, but you go in just expecting to enjoy a movie or see a movie, and you can't get disappointed.
I could agree to that. I do think found footage genre for horror is very interesting to touch basis on it. Like one of the reasons why I do like Unfriended is because I thought the concept of it all taking place kind of like right now, me and you through a Zoom call, and you're having a story unravel itself through that while people are being systematically killed was
Right.
very, very intriguing. It was very thought invoking, and it was really cool to see it played out in that way. And same thing with the Blair Witch Project, both the old and the kind of continuation off of the first movie, because the newer Blair Witch is just a direct sequel, like a reboot sequel.
Right.
Because I think the original Blair Witch had three movies or two, because they had the Book of the Witch or whatever, which was a sequel, something like that.
Uh oh, the other thing is the fact that the movie takes place in Fresno. So that's why it was like really hitting close to home. It's like I know Fresno. Fresno's not too far away.
Which one took place in Fresno?
Unfriended.
Oh,
Like here's the actual the plot. In Fresno, California, high school student Laura Barnes commits suicide by gunshot after an anonymous user uploads a video of her passing out and defecating at an unsupervised party, making it go viral. 1 year later, her former childhood best friend Blair Lilly is chatting with her boyfriend Mitch on Skype, during which they agree to lose their virginities to each other on prom night. That's a weird point to add. Soon after, they're joined by their friends and classmates, as well as an unknown user known as Billy227. They tried various ways to get rid of the intruder in the call. Each are unsuccessful. Blair looks up the account and realizes it belongs to Laura Barnes, revealing Billy227 as Laura, even though the friends are still incredulous about this possibility. They suspect that a classmate named Val is pranking them after they invite Val to their chat. Jess's Facebook page is updated with embarrassing photos of Val at a party. Jess denies uploading the photos and deletes them from her account, but the pictures instantly reappear on Adam's account. Val receives a message, yada yada yada. Uh, Laura forces the remaining. Oh, hang on, I skipped. Okay. Okay. Val receives a message of a picture not visible to the others, which she considers a threat. Angry, she calls 911 to report as she's being harassed and abruptly leaves the chat. The group receives a photo of Val and Laura's Facebook messages from before Laura's death and Val telling Laura to kill herself. Val reappears on the chat, sitting motionless and silent next to a bottle of bleach before collapsing. Police officers arrive shortly after the friends eavesdrop and learn that Val died from a presumed suicide. Laura then sends each of her friends a personalized message proving intimate knowledge of their secrets in Blair's case, which is the one visible to the audience. This turns out to be several pictures revealing that she had an affair with Adam. Ken destroys the program and removes Laura from the chat, and then Adam attempts to call the police. Uh, However, the 911 operator turns out to be the intruder and re-enters the chat, revealing a camera view from the other side of Ken's room. He approaches the camera source, and his Skype is briefly cut before it shows him killing himself with a blender.
God, I remember that scene.
Yeah, so that person, Ken, is actually Jacob Wazowski. I can
Whose
never say
house key?
Wysoski. I can never say his name right, unfortunately.
Wazowski.
But he is the one who's on Dropout. Laura then forces the remaining uh, four friends to play a game of Never Have I Ever, stating that the loser would die. During the course of the game, it's revealed that Jess started a rumor that Blair had an eating disorder. Blair stole and crashed Jess's mother's car. Mitch made out with Laura, although he says it was a one-sided on her, and he pushed her off. And also reported Adam to the police for dealing cannabis. And then it just shows that, like, one by one, they're all being killed off. And then it ends with, as Blair hears the bedroom door creak, Laura, now in the form of her spirit, slams Blair's laptop shut. Blair then faintly whispers Laura's name before being attacked as Laura mauls her off screen as the film cuts to black.
Yep. I have no idea what the second one would be about. I don't know if it's like a whole other person or if it still continues the same story.
Well, seeing how everybody got killed.
Yeah, but there could have been more people involved. Laura could have been still a vengeful spirit.
I think the other one's called Dark Web. Yeah.
I think for me, growing up, the scariest movie for me was probably Scream. But that's also Uso. Going anywhere. You ain't doing jack shit if I'm holding you the whole last time. Alright, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So as I was saying, I think childhood wise, the scariest movie for me was Scream. I had like legitimate nightmares of Ghostface. And like the mask was just petrifying for me. I don't know what it was as a kid, but it invoked nightmares. Like I'd be trick-or-treating as a kid, and I would see someone dressed as Ghostface and just like completely shut down and just be petrified.
Right.
Um Child's Play, the Chucky dolls, especially around like the Curse of Chucky, Bride of Chucky, Son of Chucky. I think Curse of Chucky is a more relatively new one, but either which way, the Chucky doll used to scare me, especially like the extremely scarred one as a kid.
Of course.
But I think as an adult, the movies that got to me the most would be Insidious.
Yeah.
Insidious scared the crap out of me the first time I watched it, and Hereditary.
Hereditary. Okay.
Hereditary got me not in a like kind of way, but in a creepy, like skin crawly kind of way. Which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
more along the lines of the horror movies I do like. I like things that are more creepy scary than it is like jump scare scary. Like The Descent. The Descent is a really good one that I like, that it doesn't scare me like scare me, but it scares me as in uncomfortable because it's about Wendigos.
Mm-hmm.
A group of girls go on this like hiking trip and they go cave spelunking and end up going into a cave full of Wendigos, and it's just really good. But yeah, I'd say for me, those were the horror movies that did it for me as a kid. Granted, I know like top three list, if I were to list top three horror movies, I would have to say Alien. Alien is definitely up there because of just the discomfort of like face huggers and
Mhm.
the visual representation of what the xenomorph was supposed to represent through sexual assault. Because that was like the whole point of the face hugger was to represent that and everything through the like director commentary. Now I'm almost knocking my pot of tea down. Um Alien's a good staple one. Green Inferno, which I don't know if I would doubt you've seen it because it would not be your type of movie whatsoever. But the Green Inferno, like the Blair Witch, was a movie that got in legal trouble because of convincing people that it was real. The
Mhm.
director got into a lot of trouble because people thought like the actors were legitimately being eaten on film because it's a cannibal movie.
Right.
And it
I've
was,
I've I've heard of it.
yeah, I've seen it after hearing the rumors. I was like, oh, I want to see how bad it could get. It gets pretty bad. It gets really bad.
Right.
So I think Aliens and Green Inferno will be up like my top two.
Okay. I have one.
Ooh.
It's not one that I've ever really bothered to watch. Oh no, I take it back. I've seen these. But there's a franchise that early on was good. Near the end of the franchise, like it got a little out there. Um, but it's one that it affects everybody today. And there's I'm gonna say something, and you're gonna instantly know what movie franchise I'm referring to.
Oh,
There's a
before
reason.
before you go to it, I'm not gonna say what I think it is, but the way you're smiling has me think it relates to my grandma because I've been talking with a lot of people about this. But my grandmother's murder, which I plan maybe not this year, but next year there's gonna be a special podcast episode about it.
Okay.
Because the killer just passed away this year or late last year. I can't really remember the time frame for it. But when he murdered my grandmother, he left a calling card that has since been used in an iconic horror franchise because he did this beforehand and it's been in the documentaries, it's been in like everything, which is the jack-o'-lantern sitting on the front porch, which is Halloween.
Okay.
So, is it Halloween?
No.
Ooh, okay. What is it? What you got?
It's a franchise that everybody is traumatized by, and you know this because nobody wants to drive behind a logging truck anymore.
Ah, Final Destination.
The
I
Final
was
Destination series.
They're doing a new one.
I know they are.
It's
It
gonna be a
so
first
like early on it
responders.
was like, okay, this is believable. And then two, it's like, oh man, that's terrifying. But nearly like the later entries, it's like, mm,
I think one, two, and three was peak Final Destination because again, the first movie, very believable. Like I was like, okay, I could get behind this. Like everything was believable except the shower scene in the first movie where it was like literally it stretched like reality a bit with having like the water leak go a specific way and then the shower cord like wrapping around his throat intentionally. It made it not an accident because I think the thing that I liked the most about Final Destination was everything was an accident.
right.
There was no explanation to the kills, but the one shower scene, as horrific as that death was in of itself, was quite literally just being like, fuck this guy, he's dying.
And I have watched the first one, I've watched two, or watched three. Um,
Three,
I know that there's one, and I can't remember which number. I've only seen parts of 3, sorry.
I've seen all of them, so if you give me like the detail, I can tell you specifically
It's the
which one
one
it is.
that it's the one that shows why the plane blew up in one. It
So that
was the
is
survivor ended up on
5.
the plane. It's
That
5,
is
yeah.
it's I think it's the Final Destination, which the ending of the movie is him being on flight 180.
Um oh, roller which one's the roller coaster? Is that 3 or
That's
4?
3.
That's 3? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I've
So
seen 3.
3 is the one that scared me the most, and to this day I still do not like roller coasters because of that movie. Log
Understandable.
log truck, don't give a shit about. I drive behind log trucks all the time. Airplanes, I've never been one and I have no reason to be one. I'm okay. Fucking roller coasters. You know how many times I've been at a fair or somewhere and the ride I'm on breaks while I'm on it? It has happened 4 separate times, David.
It happens. It does happen. I have witnessed a roller coaster track separating. It was they oh actually, you know what? I'll pull up the video.
The video.
Yeah.
While you pull up the video, I'll talk on Final Destination because I own all 5 or 6 movies that they've made so far, and I personally am very excited for the newest one because it's supposed to be a bunch of first responders that survive. Like, I think it's a fire or something that was supposed to take them.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. This pillar right here, there's
Uh
a
huh.
crack right there. There's people on this coaster right now.
Oh
They did shut it down, but not before they kept having people ride it. That video popped up and it was like, hmm, no.
no, no, Kitty, that's a big no. A big no. Just going
Yeah.
on showing Good Morning America.
Just enough to show that it was a big national thing, but not enough to where they can copyright us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You will never catch me on a roller coaster.
Yes. And then
And then
when it comes
4
to
with the
like
bridge gets me, or no, that's 5 as well. It is plane, truck, roller coaster,
race car track,
NASCAR. That's
that
okay. So the fourth one is NASCAR because that's the one that introduced the 3D like deaths. And
right.
then 5 is the bridge, which is the one that looped it all back together again.
Yes. So there I mean there's deaths throughout there each of the movies where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm terrified of. Katie and I were on this escalator in San Jose, and it like as we were going, it physically like did that whole thing. We've never gone on that escalator since then. It's been fixed. It legit had an issue, but no, never again. Um, but yeah, I think the Final Destination series, which I I would say it's horror.
It's
Like I'd classify it
thriller
like thriller horror, like a little bit.
because none of it's like in your face, like jump scare, like oh, horror. But it's as I explained with like the other movie, it's creepy horror. It's the ominous presence of the devil is lurking, or not the devil, the Reaper is lurking in the
Yes.
shadows. Which the fact that they had the guy that played the Reaper Death, beautiful casting. Which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is Candyman as well.
It is a horror franchise. 6 films, 9 novels, and 2 comic books.
6 films.
Because they're including the newest one,
The newest
Bloodlines.
one. Bloodlines. Okay. There's books though. Huh?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to look into that. Speaking of horror movies and everything, I saw The Late Night with the Devil, which is a newer horror film that has the God, what is he? He was in Suicide Squad as Polka Dot Man, and he plays like a bunch of other really good roles, and I don't know the actor's name, and I should be ashamed of myself because he is a great, phenomenal actor in like, everything I've seen him in, but I just don't remember his name. But he plays a late night show host whose like wife dies and his ratings were starting to plummet. So he does like he brings this guest on. The first guest is like a medium that can commune with spirits. The second guest was like a world renowned like magician that turned into a ghost hunter to just kind of debunk a bunch of like ghost stories. And then the third guest he brings on is a girl that is legitimately possessed by the devil. And throughout the movie you find out that him and his wife were in some like kind of Hollywood cult and stuff like that. And the little girl, as she's being possessed by the devil, starts saying like, don't you remember me out in the woods and everything you've prayed to me kind of stuff, and just goes into full like possession mode. And it was really creepy and good. It was a slow burn, but I feel like with horror, especially possession horror, like Conjuring, Insidious, Late Night with the Devil, Poltergeist, all those, slow burn does really well for that category. Because with
Hmm.
ghost and like supernatural ghost possession type movies, when you start throwing stuff right out the gate, like for instance, The Nun, you kind of get desensitized to it. So, like for instance, The Nun 1 versus Nun 2, I love the first one more so because it took time for a character we already was introduced to through Conjuring to actually appear on screen and start being malicious.
Right.
Whereas Nun 2, it's like right out the gate, you already know who's possessed. You already, even though you have the same amount of knowledge going into both films, it was the second one just kept everything ramped up and going. Whereas Slow Burn, it builds that anxiety. Because even I think it's Insidious that has the Crooked Man and everything too.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Maybe I might be thinking Conjuring just because both movies are so similar and they both have Patrick Wilson as like the main character of both franchises.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm reading the Wikipedia of Final Destination.
Yeah.
The comic book. So the first comic book is titled Sacrifice, and it came packaged with the limited edition DVD of Final Destination 3, sold exclusively, and this one is a old callback, at Circuit City stores. When was the last time you heard of Circuit City?
I heard somebody the other day talk about the husk of one in Vegas or in
So
Nevada.
there's a Circuit City, or there was one in Chico. I It looks like it's still. Sorry, I can hear whatever Katie's watching right now.
It's all good. Boop.
Um,
Boop your little
it's still
snoot.
around. Anyway, and then the premise of the story involves the survivor of a terrible accident and his friend Jim, who continually experiences images of other people's deaths, isolating himself from the rest of the world to escape the visions that torment him. And then the publisher later released a 5 issue miniseries titled Final Destination Spring Break, which involves a group led by uh, Carly Hagen being stalked by death after surviving a hotel fire and becoming stranded in Cancun, Mexico. The miniseries was later released in a trade paperback collection, which included the Sacrifice comic as bonus content.
I wonder if I could find them on Amazon.
Possibly. I did I for kicks and giggles I did also read the Final Destination 5 because again I never actually watched it. And the fact that they were told that they had to kill people who were not on the bridge to get their lifespan, right?
Yeah.
And then uh where was it? And spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but this movie came out in 2011, so it says that he eventually gains the lifespan of an investigating agent, but is killed by Sam before he can kill Molly. Sam and Molly later board a plane to Paris, which is revealed to be Flight 180 from the first film. When the fuselage is torn apart by the exploding engine fragments, Molly is sucked out of the plane while Sam is killed in the subsequent explosion. The landing gear is sent flying towards New York City and crashing into a cocktail bar, killing Nathan. Nathan being, I think, the third survivor,
Mhm.
since the coworker whose life he claimed had a terminal illness and was due to die, quote unquote, any day now. Talk about bad luck.
I think the one thing I really love about the Final Destination movies is they really show you can't cheat death.
Yeah.
Because even in the first movie, the girl that survives, because the girl and the guy, the main character, survived the first film, but the dude is killed off screen in between one and two, and
Yes.
then the main survivor girl is killed off in two. In three, when they survive, she's later killed by a train incident that takes the remaining group of survivors, I want to say like a year later.
So two takes place 1 year after the first film. Um, Final Destination 3. I mean, it came out 6 years later, and then I'm reading the Final Destination. What I've learned from this series, and this has been a really wild tangent, and I'm very sorry, guys.
It's
What
all
I've
good. I
learned from
like
this
this
series
tangent.
is death has a sense of humor,
Well, yeah.
and if you cheat death, death will one kill people indiscriminately. For example, uh, those people cheated death on the bridge, so to kill those two people, killed a bunch of other people on the plane. But there's some people who cheated death there, so then death went after them. Death didn't have to go after them because the plane wasn't supposed to blow up, except for the plane only blew up to kill those other two survivors, or three survivors, creating a whole new set of survivors. And when those people survived, eh, one doesn't really lead to two, I don't think.
One doesn't lead to two outside of the fact that it's Highway 180, and as the girl's trying to figure out what's happening, they realize that a year ago another person had premonitions of Flight 180 blowing up and that there was one survivor, so they go to her to ask questions, which draws them back into the loop.
And then Final Destination 2, I don't think leads to 3.
No, three, one and two are mentioned in three, and
Right.
there's a newspaper that flutters by that shows that the girl who survives two is killed later on. Like her and the boyfriend mysteriously die in some way. I can't remember what it is. Pretty much everybody gets got eventually.
Death comes for everybody. And then of course the ending of 3, and this is I'm just reading the very quick synopsis here. Uh they start to die off. They also figure out that the photographs they took at the park have hints at their death. Most of their attempts are futile. with the exception of Julie and themselves, leading him to believe that they have cheated death. However, the three coincidentally cross paths 5 months later and are caught in a horrifying subway accident.
Yep.
And then five, the final destination. Sorry, the final destination. That's they're killed in the car crash. Um, this leads so they're killed in strange accidents, except for Janet, who is rescued just moments before her death. This leads the remaining survivors to believe that they have cheated death until Nick has another premonition of a disastrous explosion at a shopping mall, which he manages to prevent, saving himself, Laurie, and Janet. 2 weeks later, he realizes the mall disaster vision was only meant to lead them to where death needed them to be, and all three were killed by a runaway semi.
Mm-hmm.
And then five is the one that kicked it all
Loops
off.
it. Yeah.
I'm curious to see what six is or Bloodlines is going to end up doing if Death is just going after like children. Because technically,
So,
there is people who survived just like in two. Um, Isabella, one of the characters, she was pregnant. She was never meant to die in the pileup,
mm.
so she had survived. Let me see. I think that there's other people who ended up surviving, and I wonder.
So everything I've heard about Final Destination Bloodlines is that it is, I don't know, it's meant to be not like a 9/11 type thing. I'm space an act of terrorism, but there's like some type of disaster that happens that causes like a bunch of first responders to be in an area where it's like a firefighter, paramedic, police officer, and then another one. They get like trapped somewhere and they're supposed to die, but they live, and then death comes after them. That is the only thing I know about it from when I
Right.
was heavily like researching a new Final Destination like a year and a half ago when it
Here,
first got greenlit.
so, here is an interesting thing. Uh, I'm gonna tell you the budget of each of the movies and then how much they got. Okay.
Okay.
Final Destination, so the original Final Destination, 23 million was the budget. They got 53 million in North America, 59 million outside North America for a worldwide of 112 million. Final Destination 2, they got a budget of 26 million and they got 90,000 or 90 million, 90,000, 90 million worldwide. Final Destination 3, 25 million and they budget and they earned 118 million. The Final Destination had a budget of 40 million, so everything jumped up, and they earned 186 million worldwide, 119 of that from outside the United States. And then Final Destination 5, they had a budget of 40 million and they earned 157 million worldwide. And the reason why I'm laughing, I don't this is freaking comical. So the totals, it has the totals on the bottom. Their total budget of everything was 154 million. Okay.
Okay.
North America gross, they got 263 million. I'm going to wait for you to come back because I want to see your face for this.
Sorry about that. I got really annoyed with the cat sitting there crawling inside what was left of an old cat food bag, trying to get like the literal minuscule crumbs out of the cat food bag instead of eating the food on his food dish.
All good. Okay, you ready for this?
Yes, I am ready for it.
So, all five of the Final Destinations, their budgets combined 154 million. In the box office, they earned 263 million in North America alone. They earned 403 million outside North America. So combined total of 666,766,477.
Huh. It's a precarious amount of sixes.
They earned 666 million.
I would have just stopped the franchise right there. We would have hit the
Here's
projected
it. Here's
numbers
the
I
thing.
would want.
They need to lose 99,000 in something to just make it sixes across the board. And that would be where you just stop. Whew. I think we should probably wrap this one up, buddy.
You getting a little tired there?
Oh no, I mean this thing's just been going on for 2 hours.
There's no way it's been going on for 2 hours.
A little over an hour and a half.
But yeah, I do kind of agree with you. It would be a good place to have it in. I didn't expect us to actually jump on a tangent of horror movies, which was nice. Especially such a huge
You brought him
tangent.
up.
I did bring it up, but I thought it was gonna be like a small little thing, and then we'd get more into a more Halloween-esque thing. Ooh, speaking of Halloween-esque, I wanna my favorite, like, not scary movie or horror movie, but like Halloween movie, Trick or Treat.
Okay.
It is an anthology film that takes place over the course of a Halloween night, and it tells like 4 or 5 different stories, and the connecting piece of the anthology is Sam, which is like a pumpkin head child
Right.
who is in essence the spirit of Halloween, and it is cool. I love it. Such a good movie. But yeah, you know what, we will definitely end the podcast here. We thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know down in the comments below or through social medias or our YouTube channel if you're watching the vidcast what your guys' favorite horror movie is, horror franchise, the movie that scared you most as a kid or as an adult. Just let's have a horror movie discussion for Halloween. As always, down in the description below will be links to all of our social medias, respected YouTube channels, Twitch channels, everything. And we will
Mhm.
see you guys either on the next episode of R&R or in the drinking corner. So, toodaloo, everybody.
Bye, everybody.